Then I think we will start now, and maybe we have some people joining in a little bit later. But let's kick things off because we have lots to talk about. That's to show you, yeah, that's why we get started now. So hello and good morning, everybody, to our webinar on implementing BCBS 23Finance data quality requirements with Soda. Short 1 hour webinar between of Soda and 23Finance this morning. I will start things off with short, maybe like the stuff on how we do it. Yeah, we have a short presentation prepared for you. We will have a live demo presented by Bernie of Soda on how do we see the world and how we would do it. And obviously, you all will have the chance to ask questions. Yeah, please do so via the chat. Sven Bender will take care of it, and we will have time at the end of the presentation at the webinar to answer all your questions. If we cannot, we will send it around via email afterwards. So this basically is how do we want to do it? Yeah. This webinar will run, as I said, for 60 minutes right now. And as we go through the agenda here, you see what we prepared, yeah, setting the stage. That is what we are currently doing. Then we will only very briefly go again about over the BCBS 239 principle and what this actually means with the radar guide for data quality related topics. So for your financial services institutions, then we will directly jump into the live demo and have one slide prepared later on for the make or buy decision or question, which basically every of our clients has to take or has already taken. Yeah, this really depends. And then in the end, we will, as I said, have time for a recap shortly, and also your question, obviously. Yeah. So. Setting the stage, who are your presenters today? First of all, it's the 23Finance. I'm the managing director, or one of the two managing directors of 23Finance. We are a consulting company based in Germany, and our focus is regulatory compliance, BCBS 239 topics, and program management, project management, and also Soda, which is an AI native data quality management platform solution. And besides me, we're presenting today, I have Bernard Spitz from Soda with me, who will guide you through the live demo. Unfortunately, Max Merkx, who was originally planned for this to be part of, cannot take place. He got sick overnight, so this is why we have a brief change of presenters here. Yeah, and why we are here together. I mean, as you know, or most of you might know, the ECB through the radar guide in May 2024 really changed the way on how they see data quality, data management, data governance, data lineage, all these topics in terms of BCBS 239 interpretation. And this really hired the burden of what needs to be done, what's the requirement of the ECB towards the financial services institution. And one huge topic of all of this is data quality. And this is what we are going to talk about in this webinar. So, and only to give a brief recap on what is actually in the radar guide, and what does it mean in terms of requirements towards data quality. Yeah. So there are three basic topics here. Yeah, this is the first topic, like data quality control coverage. Yeah, in BCBS 239, there was already robust controls required and reconciliation controls required, but there was not like a really detailed requirement on how you have to do it. Yeah, on which data is really meant, and on where you really need reconciliation controls. Yeah. The radar guide in 2024 really changed that. Yeah, they made clear on what they really mean. So the first point really was, okay, we need end-to-end data quality control coverage. So from the front office, the system, the operational systems at the beginning of the whole chain, up until the reports where you have your KRIs and the CDEs, the critical data elements, you all have to define under the radar regime. this has been made clear by the RDARR guide, as well as the reconciliation controls, where the ECB really said, okay, you have to take into consideration your own accounting finance data, external data sources you used in the KRI reporting, as well as model development data. Yeah. And obviously, this for basically every client I have seen in the past led to a huge increase in terms of which data has to be DQ checked, yeah, how many data has to be DQ checked. Also, it led to shift left approaches because a lot of clients did not consider the front office systems and the granular data to be part of the data quality regime under BCBS 239. So the expectation in terms of which data has to be quality checked really changed through the RDARR guide in this regard. Yeah, so this was like the first real challenge we have seen through RDARR here. The second one is the business involvement and the issue management. Yeah, I mean it's good to have data quality checks, but what about operating and governing data quality overall? Yeah, and under BCBS 239, we had really, I mean, there were signs and regulation with roles, responsibilities, and escalation channels and action plans. So basically, everything was there, but it did not define what like the real expectation was. Yeah, for example, an exception register wasn't defined. The role of the data owners weren't defined back then. Yeah. And over time, obviously, best practices evolved. Yeah, banks tried to interpret it their way, and also the supervisors learned. Yeah, and that's also why they tackled these topics in the RDARR guide. With first thing, they made the DQ issue register mandatory. So right now, the regulator wants every DQ issue to be handled separately. Yeah, mentioned in a register and governed through a issue management process. Yeah, you cannot just check your data quality. You really have to manage it. Yeah, have to try to solve data quality issues, for example. Yeah, and secondly, a clear data governance structure was the need, the requirement for a clear data governance structure was put out with accountability of the data owners for the KRIs and CDEs for everything, yeah, end to end, as I said. For the second line, obviously, the validation function you all have, and the internal audit as a third line of defense, yeah, and that led to more key challenges. Yeah, for example, the business involvement, the ownership component. Yeah, you now need more people than before in order to govern the whole regime of BCBS 239 and RDARR. Obviously, yeah, you have more standardization in terms of what is critical. Yeah, the critical data elements, and you need more people in order to own them. Yeah, across your bank, and this leads obviously to more effort overall. Yeah, and secondly, the issue management. I mean, you need a process where issue management like is triggered. Yeah, and obviously you need the right tools, the right persons to be able to evaluate DQ problems as well as solve them. Yeah, and this can lead to different remediation steps in the process. And the third topic, obviously, is the DQ reporting. Yeah, I mean, you manage your data quality. You go ahead with your data quality issues. Yeah, and try to solve them. And obviously, you have to report the whole stuff. And I mean, data quality reporting as part of the risk reporting in most banks, it's the overall risk or the Gesamtrisikobericht in German, we would say. Yeah, was part of it before. Yeah, under BCBS 239, but the responsibility in terms of the management body which has to be involved wasn't that clearly set out in BCBS 239 before, and there wasn't like a real requirement for DQ KPIs or DQIs yet. So we saw really different approaches on DQ was part of the the risk reporting in the past. Yeah, and Radar also changed that. Yeah, I mean, first of all, and this has been clearly put out by Radar, you need a specific management body who really takes ownership of this topic. Yeah, for data quality of the risk data. So this is a C-level function now. This is the first thing, and secondly, as it had been put out through Radar, that you need DQ indicators as steering mechanism of the relevant data quality for your key risk indicators in the risk reporting. Yeah. And that leads to more challenges, obviously. First of all, we see that you need the central DQ store, yeah, so storage and history of your DQ measurements in order to have an understanding of how did my data quality evolve, yeah, how did the data quality of a certain KRI evolve, and then you can also say, okay, over time, I mean, risk appetite changes, maybe KRIs change over time, yeah, whenever there's a meaningful change within your organization, maybe, and you have to manage that, yeah, also in terms of data quality, obviously, yeah, and last but not least, the crew reporting itself. Yeah, so the DQIs, besides the KRIs, have to be part of the integrated reporting solution you have for your risk reporting. Yeah, and these challenges lead to the question on yeah, how do we solve them in the future? Yeah? How do we go now? What do we do next? Yeah, and for that we have our partners from Bernie from the Zoda here. Like Bernie, I want you to take over the screen now. I will stop my presentation for a moment and hand it over back to you.
Yes. Thank you, Jan, for the introduction. I hope you do see my screen now that is shared. So before I dive into the demo and showcase basically how Soda can be used to facilitate compliance to the new regulations with BCBS 239, let me quickly set the scene just with showing how the data looks like that I have provisioned in this demo environment. So I'm basically was thinking about a critical data element, exposure at default. And for that, I basically created three distinct data sets. One with basically an exposure amount and some ingestion timestamps, basically which are linked to a counterparty ID. For that counterparty ID, I will have a different table that is basically my master reference table. So every exposure should, of course, be linked to a valid counterparty. And then finally, I have another accounting balances table just to showcase some reconciliation checks, because also that is quite important vis-a-vis the regulatory office, that you are able to show that the reconciliation is done in a qualitative manner. So that is just very brief, the three data sets that I've uploaded into the Soda environment. You actually also see them over here, the accounting balances, the counterparty master, and the exposure data set. Now, when we talk data quality at Soda, there's actually two ways of approaching this, because since the rise of AI and LLMs, we see that the amount of data is increasing exponentially, and it will be difficult to keep writing checks manually for each data set and each data point that is being added within your data infrastructure stack. So for that, we basically take the approach of observability, which basically means that we don't write any data quality rules ourselves, but that we use historical trends to detect any kind of anomalies. And that is what you see over here. For example, on the BCBS exposures table, we actually have detected 3 anomalies in this data set using metric monitoring or observability capabilities, just by looking at historical trends, baseline, and using machine learning algorithms. So that is one part of how we approach data quality in general, is with observability, basically from the bottom up, letting the machine learning algorithms detect anomalies. At the same time, we understand that for the regulator, it is important that you are able to show that you have put in place the necessary data quality checks on critical data elements. And the way we do that with Soda is in a formal manner, basically with defining data contracts on specific data sets and tables. And as you see here on this exposure table, we have indeed a Soda data contract enabled, which basically is, as the name suggests, an agreement, a strict agreement between the data producer and the data consumer, so that you know, as a consumer, when you consume the data, what are the data quality requirements that are met when I consume this data? How many null values, what's the freshness of the data, the SLAs, et cetera, are all neatly defined in that data contract implemented in the Soda platform. Now, I will dive into both elements, basically the observability part and the data contract part. I'll start off with showcasing the metric monitoring again, which basically detects any anomalies in your data without writing any rule yourself, and is as such very well suited for a vast amount of data for which you want to have some kind of data quality indicators without necessarily spending all the resources on writing statically defined data quality rules on your data sets. And as you see here on the metric monitoring pane, we have different kind of monitors. We have data set monitors, which basically leverage the metadata of the data set, and it will showcase high-level anomalies on, for example, the total row count, which seems to be okay in this case. Also the last modification time, if we have learned from the past that the data is being updated every day and suddenly it takes 2 days or maybe only half a day, automatically an anomaly would trigger. And as you see here, for example, the most recent time span, it has actually been taking a while since that the data was refreshed. And I can see very easily with this time series table, basically the reasoning why this anomaly was detected on the recent timestamp. So these are data set monitors that give an indication on how the data set behaves and if there's any anomalies over time on multiple columns. If you want to monitor specifically the behavior of a dedicated column, and for BCBS, right, the exposure at default or the exposure amount might be the most important one. Well, we can also configure column level monitors, and these would monitor metrics over time and basically detect any anomalies in that column and will notify the necessary stakeholders in an automated way. So if I look, for example, at the exposure amount, I have 3 column monitors defined on that. I'm interested in the average. I'm interested in the percentage of missing values. And I'm basically interested in this case also on the sum. If I click, for example, on the missing values, I have my time series data and I very easily have an indication of what kind of baseline was detected by the algorithm, what anomalies were pointed out by the algorithm. And of course, as a business steward, as a subject matter expert, as a human in the loop, I will be able basically to guide the algorithm saying, for example, this might be a false positive, this might be a true positive. I think that the algorithm is too strict or too lean. I would be able to define basically how strict the algorithm would be. All of these capabilities are, of course, available in the Soda platform to fine-tune the machine learning, to allow the algorithm to relearn from human input. But again, it saves quite a lot of time because with the vast amount of data that you have, you are typically not in a situation where you can write specific data quality checks for each column manually. And so these data set monitors, these column monitors can very easily be added by clicking here on the add column monitor. For example, if I'm also interested in how facility ID field behaves over time, I am able to select what kind of anomalies I want to be notified about, what kind of anomalies I want to be monitoring over time. Of course, we have these out-of-the-box data set monitors. There's an extensive list of column monitors that I've just shown you. If there is still the need to write very specific calculation rules to decide if it is an anomaly, yes or no, I would be able to still write a SQL query that mounts up to a metric, and that metric will then be also over time be used to compare the current value of today, maybe with the value of yesterday, the month before, or the year before. So that was on the exposures table, an explanation of how the observability and the metric monitoring capabilities work. So again, without writing any data quality rules ourselves, we are notified about drifts in the data and we can take action upon them. Another key element and most relevant for BCBS and other regulatory requirements is actually having auditable and traceable data quality checks on your data. And I'm now into the checks pane, which basically lists me the current data contract. So a data contract contains a whole range of data quality rules, and this contract is linked to a data set. And depending on the rhythm of the data, this contract will be verified at different time intervals. Typically, if you know that your data is being updated at 5 p.m. Every day, it would make sense to run a contract verification at maybe 5:05, just to ensure that the newly ingested data is adherent with the contract and with all the data quality checks in the contract. As you see here on the page, there's quite a lot of red, so most likely there is quite some data quality issues. There are some data quality checks that actually fail. And you see very similarly to the metric monitoring, we also have data quality rules, data quality checks on a data set level, which will compare or which will validate, for example, multiple columns at the same time, maybe the freshness of the data, the row count, the schema structure. And we have column checks, which basically allow for defining data quality rules on specific columns. In this case, I'm defining how an LAE should look like. I'm defining what is required for an exposure amount to be valid for the business, yes or no, right? And then finally, quite important for regulatory compliance as well, is basically we have the possibility to do reconciliation checks, right? If we move data from one system to another, or if we have a ledger and we want to compare the sum of the ledger versus the accounting sum, that is something that we can very easily do as well. We can compare source versus target, and we can do such kind of reconciliation checks. So we have this contract. We have some checks in the contract, data set checks. We have column checks. We have reconciliation checks. Of course, since this is a contract, a formal agreement between the data consumer and the data producer, it is, of course, paramount that also changes in the data quality rules that you implement are traceable and are auditable. If I change a data quality rule, I will need to be able to report to the regulator who changed what at what time and potentially also for what purpose. And that is typically quite an important aspect. And that is something that is built into the SODA Cloud platform as well. So what I can do if I would be a business steward and I'm not happy with the current data contract, or if I want to make amendments to the contract, I can actually submit a request. And let me do it quickly. BCBS 239 webinar. I can go through a formal change request that is neatly audited and has traceable on basically making a change to this data contract and basically involve different kind of stakeholders, right? Automatically, the owner of the contract will be notified, but I can add colleagues to discuss this. I can write it in a chat, suggested changes. But most interestingly, instead of being passive, I can actually already make a proposal of a new contract in a very easy and business-friendly way. And once that proposal is basically reviewed by the data contract owner, it can be put into production, and all of those changes will be neatly tracked. So let me do that, for example, for this contract. Imagine if I want to add a proposal. These are the checks and the data quality measures that are currently in place. What I could do, for example, is add a specific check, a missing check, an invalid check, an aggregate check, a metric, or potentially even an LLM check. But more interestingly, I have this contract copilot, and even if I don't know anything about the underlying data, I could leverage this copilot to implement or assist me in implementing data quality checks on this contract. So let me try something like this. Please add a freshness check so that the data is not more than 24 hours old. And let me see what the Copilot comes up with. And you see basically an explanation of the contract, what I changed, the critical nodes. It's leveraging the ingestion underscore TS column. But more interestingly, you see the notification icon over here on the datasets check level. And you see that there is an added icon next to that with a new rule that says the data is fresh. The hour must be less than or equal to 24, else it would fail, right? Of course, I can change the alert level. If I want to make it instead of red, I want to make it amber. It could be a warn level instead of a fail level. But you see how easy it is to leverage the Copilot as a business steward without having any, say, SQL connaissance or expertise. I am very easily able to make amendments to the contract. And basically, once I have done so, I could save it and basically add a comment to the stakeholder saying, added the freshness check of 24 hours. Please review. When I hit save, this proposal will actually be added in here. Again, I have this traceability. I see that this freshness check has been added, and it is linked to proposal number 159 version 2 for this specific contract. If I close this contract off, of course, all of these requests are centrally available for the auditor or for the regulator. And you see indeed my BCBS webinar request is linked over here. I see the changes. I see who was involved. I could add some people. I could add another proposal. I could test to run this contract. If I wanted to, if I'm more of a technical guy, I can basically look at the data quality, at the data contract code itself. If I want to highlight the differences, I basically see here the code that was added versus the previous version of the contract. So this is a very distinctive part of the SODA platform, that this whole change management, the version management of the contract, and the auditability and traceability is neatly integrated, especially for the business stakeholders that need to report on the critical data elements and do not necessarily always understand the technical details of where the data resides. Of course, on my data contract, on the data check, it is of course important to run the contract, right? And that is actually being done by clicking on verify full contract, and then it will execute. It will basically go over all of the checks in the data quality contract, and it will populate the results over here. You see, once the contract is finished verifying, all of the results will shift one box to the left, and the new results will pop up in the consolidated view in the consolidated dashboard over here in SODA Cloud. Now, what is important as well is we want to investigate potential anomalies, potential data quality failures. And you see here that I have an incident. Apparently, not all exposure amounts are actually populated. So what I can do very easily, which is also, of course, important for BCBS compliance, is the data quality issue management, right? Or incident management. And I can either, if there's already an incident existing, I could link it, or I could create a new incident, right? BCBS 239 webinar incident. I can give it a severity. I will keep it to major BCBS 239 webinar incident description. And also here you will see the incident is created. If I go here in the data incidents page on top, I have all my incidents linked. I can add an owner. I can change the severity. I can change the stages that they reported and investigated. I can collaborate with different people. I can link other data quality issues to it. And also quite interesting, as we know that many financial institutions have already some kind of ticketing or incident management tooling available. We neatly integrate with those. So there's no need to necessarily replace them. We can send out communications to the different kind of stakeholders. We can create ServiceNow or Jira tickets. We have bi-directional integrations so that this incident can be closed outside of the platform and be followed up, can be followed up neatly by the necessary stakeholders in the application of their liking. And so, again, on my data sets, I have the contracts with a contract verification. I have the anomalies. If I click on the data set itself, I see now indeed that the contract verification was done. We still have not so many up par basically data. So there's quite a lot of data quality checks that fail. I could very easily further investigate this by looking, for example, as a next follow-up step to see, okay, which are now the breaking records, which are the identifiers of those records that are breaking in my columns, in my data sets, to basically either fix the data or to report towards the regulator the overall evolution of how your data quality posture evolves over time. So what happens every time we run a data contract verification in the SODA platform, we actually have what we call a diagnostics warehouse, which basically store all of the records for which the verification of the column and data set checks in the contract failed. And we store them in a database in a schema that is hosted within your customer premises, because we don't want any confidential data to be stored in the sort of cloud environment. We store it there, and this diagnostic warehouse can then be used to basically build reporting or potentially follow up activities, such as the cleansing of the data. Now, what is important, of course, when we want to report on the specific data is that we can actually slice and dice the reporting to what is relevant for different kind of stakeholders. And so that is something that I omitted to explain on the contract itself over here. So let me quickly show you in the case of BCBS on how we can annotate basically different kind of checks that make it easier to report on specific necessities of the legislation. Imagine if I open, for example, this duplicate exposure records, I can actually assign to each check, no matter if it's a data set check or a column check, I can assign attributes, which are, for example, linked to a BCBS principle. So in this case, for this example, for this check, I basically decide that this check will cover principle P3 and P4 in the BCBS regulation. But if I also need to report on NIST or RDARR or any other kind of regulatory reporting, I would be able to annotate my check so that for the reporting, I have easy ways to slice and dice the data. In a similar manner, I have added an attribute with the DAMA dimensions, which you most likely all know. So I basically find this one check to cover the uniqueness principle, but of course, there's others there as well. So in my contract, I basically have BCBS principles linked to them, but also DAMA dimensions. And of course, when any of those records break, I want to be able to filter on those. I want to be able to report on those. And that is exactly what happens in the diagnostic warehouse. If I click, for example, on the failed rows over here, I can open a reporting dashboard. And this dashboard is just a dummy dashboard that I created for the sake of this demo, but it leverages the data that is existing in this diagnostic warehouse. So I have all the data, and since I annotated data with BCBS principles or with DAMA dimensions, I would very easily be able to slice and dice on that. So for example, in the checks over here, I had P3 and P4, accuracy and integrity and completeness checks defined. I have them listed here. This is a high-level executive summary, but if I wanted to show more technical details, if I want to filter out, for example, the P4 completeness only, these were the checks, the dataset level checks, the column level checks, also the anomalies. But most importantly, I would also be able to see, for example, the breaking records over here. I'm missing all the failing checks. I could do it only the duplicate records, or maybe the exposure amounts that are missing. All of that is very easily built on top of this diagnostic warehouse. You could use it with Power BI, you could use it with Tableau, with Sigma. Any kind of reporting layer can be very easily added on top of this diagnostic warehouse for you to do further reporting towards the regulator. It is also there where 23Finance together with Soda can help you and assist you with building the right dashboarding that you can use either for supporting your internal stakeholders or your external stakeholders. And I believe that brings me to the end of the high-level demo of what Soda can mean for you on assisting you with implementing BCBS 239 requirements with regards to data quality. Just to recap that we use the metric monitoring just to monitor the data and highlight any anomalies without the need of having to write any checks yourselves manually, and that we have a more formal approach with very strict version management, auditability, traceability by using data contracts and data quality checks that can then on top be further enhanced with some kind of reporting as depicted here on the screen. So with that, I believe I will hand it over back to Jan, and I'll take any questions in the chat anytime.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Bernie, I think there are some questions already. Maybe you have a look at into it. Yeah,
let me answer those now.
Yeah, where people also already asked about the integration of the decode checks and so on. Yeah, I will take over the screen share once again. Give me a second, please. So. And obviously, I want to hurry a little bit so that we have enough time to answer all your questions that might not be answered in the chat. Yeah, so give me a second. All right. So our last topic, the make versus buy question. Yeah. Obviously, the data quality topic in every financial institution, has a history, yeah, and every bank I have seen over the past 10 years has a different solution, and most of these solutions were made by their own, using different technologies for different capabilities you need for a whole DQ platform or a whole DQ framework. And I think what you just saw is that Zoda is able to deliver numerous capabilities you need out of the box. Yeah, and for that we made this slide to once again review on that. What are the capabilities you need overall for a data quality platform which covers everything you need in order to be compliant, but also to make data quality management for other topics in the future, like AI or something like this. Yeah. And first of all, what we see is obviously data enterprise catalog. Yeah. I mean, this is also a component Zoda is not carrying within the platform, but this is like where you have specialized solution like Atlan, Colibra, Ab initio MHub, the Quantum. Yeah, so there are numerous solutions on the market covering the enterprise data catalog. And I think mostly every financial institution has its own enterprise data catalog and catalog solution. And these solutions can integrate with Zoda in order to use the information you already have in your metadata management system, obviously. Yeah. So then there's the topic of the DQ measurements, yeah, obviously. So the DQ controls, what we've seen in the past that these controls are implemented and defined, individually by every data owner on its own, or the system owner, or the functional the business department on their own. So it is really fragmented, not centralized. Yeah, the coverage is insufficient. And the problem here comes that this might not need or meet the regulatory requirements you have overall in the end to meet the radar or to fulfill the radar requirements here. You know? Obviously, Zoda brings this capability with its solution. Yeah, you have seen that in the demo, I think. Yeah, the same goes for the DQ repository. Yeah. What we see is there's obviously a need for a centralized DQ repository, and in order to have an overview of everything you have in terms of DQ checks in your institutions, to be able to map it, like for example the principles of BCBS 239, to be able to understand which DQ checks refer to a certain KRI or DQI, and what is critical to BCBS 239 or for other parts. Yeah, so you have to categorize your DQ checks, and in order to have a full picture and also enable your data quality owners, you need a whole DQ repository which is centralized and which is like updated regularly. And Zoda has in the Zoda Cloud platform, you have this capability. Yeah, it's part of the overall platform here. Yeah, same goes for the DQ issue management. Yeah, when you have the DQ issue management, what we have seen in the past, that they are partially integrated into the workflow solutions you might have, like a Jira or a ServiceNow solution. Yeah. Often these issues are not connected to the measurement themselves, and even not connected to the reporting you have in the end of the workflow. Yeah, you need a lot of manual steps. You have breaks within the workflow, and with Zoda we can this is like integrated. Yeah, and you even can plug it in your existing ticketing system and have a connection right there if needed. Yeah. Also, the DQ reporting. I mean, when we talk about DQ reporting, it's like I said at the beginning, it's important to know that also the regulator requires the DQ reporting to be an integral part of the risk reporting now under the RDARR regime. And so it's really important to have like a roll up of the Q checks, which are connected to everything related to your risk data and to the corresponding DQ checks for the risk data, and to have this reported. Yeah, and for the reporting, obviously, you want all the BI capabilities you all know. Yeah, so you want to go from the top level KPI and want to have the ability to drill down into certain areas of problems and have have like the full view on where do we have problems, where we have coverage problems, yeah, where do problems arise from, where we have good data quality, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and with Soda, this capability is directly built into the same solution where you have all your DQ checks as well as your repository. Yeah. Yeah, last but not least, the integration layer. I mean, often there's numerous orchestrations of jobs, yeah, numerous systems. It's really scattered. It's a scattered topic at the moment, and we think that an integration of also the whole measurements as well as the DQ check layer, and afterwards the presentation of the DQ measurement results in one layer in order to make it available for DQ reporting, and also the issue management process is key, and also Soda provides that. So what you have is 5 out of these 6 functional components of these capabilities you need will be directly brought to you with Soda, whereas, and this is often the case, unfortunately, when you have your own solution built, you will need numerous systems, numerous technologies in order to solve all these, or to have all these capabilities covered for your solution for data quality. Yeah. So, and this brings us to the end of the presentation. Yeah, so just short recap, and then we will jump to more questions if you have them. So be ready to ask us. Yeah. So the first point we have is like, obviously a huge part of the enablement of Soda is the data contract, as you see. Yeah, the data contract is a YAML contract. This has nothing, or is not a Soda native thing, but the data contract is like open to you. It lives in Git, travels with your data, and it's yours to keep and yours to define. Yeah, and even if you are not there yet, yeah. The thing is that data contract doesn't bring any vendor lock-in with it. Yeah, you can just simply own it yourself. Yeah. We also think, and this is why we really think that Soda is a great solution for the requirements under RDARR, that the business and IT collaboration is enhanced, enriched, and accelerated in this regard. Yeah, we have seen numerous organizations that struggle with the adaptation time, with time to market, with the ability to react on functional or requirements changes, to then have it solved in the IT systems or the whole data quality framework. Yeah, with Soda you have a much closer collaboration because it lives within one environment. And you also have the AI-assisted rule creation, which also lowers the barrier for your business analyst, your data analyst, and gives them direct access to handling data quality on a contract level, as you have seen in the demo. Yeah. And thus also leading to a much faster speed to compliance. Yeah, we've laid out that approximately 30 weeks from assessment to demonstrable compliance. Yeah, obviously it depends on your individual solution. Yeah, but we can really bring a solution to life much faster than with a scattered system architecture for data quality. Because we have one solution, we have a really fast solution which lives in the cloud, and we think that we can help you guys to manage your requirements out of RDARR with Soda effectively. Yeah. So that's it from our part, I would say. So I would like to open it up for more questions if we have them.
Yeah, many thanks for the presentations. I'm happy to guide you through the Q&A. We will try to answer as many questions from the Q&A section as possible. If there might be some remaining ones after the time runs out, we'll answer them afterwards in written form. So let's start. I already saw that Bernie already answered quite some questions in the Q&A section. Some are open. So let's start with one from the Q&A section. Bernie, does Soda also do a DQ scoring at the dataset or CDE level?
Yes, I was writing the answers in the chat, but let me answer this one then live. So yeah, we don't necessarily have like a dedicated way of reporting at a CDA level. This is typically something that is done via a data catalog, right? If you've got something like an exposure, a default, a business term, or a KPI or a metric defined in your catalog, basically the data quality scores linked to that business term or metric would be aggregated in your enterprise data catalog via those kind of capabilities. Now, of course, with some complex SQL queries, we are able to aggregate different kind of checks into one data quality check, which would be able to mount up to an aggregate score on a CDE or a dataset level. But in reality, that would actually be quite a lot of distinct queries mounted into one query to come up to a data quality score. Hence, I believe it is better to keep the say low level or say the column level and the dataset level checks within SODA, and you do the aggregation in your enterprise data catalog, basically on the metric or KPI or CDE level.
Many thanks. So another question. So when would you choose to run your algorithm detection instead of just writing the DQ checks? Do the algorithms bring more functionalities than the checks?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it changes a bit also with the rise of AI and LLMs. But basically, what we saw in the recent past is that there's such a big amount of data being created and populated in enterprise infrastructures, and especially within financial institutions, that it's just too difficult, basically, to write manually data quality checks on all of your data. And hence, there was this rise of observability capabilities where you basically point machine learning algorithms to your data, and it will automatically flag, anomalies in your data without the need for you to having to write specific data quality checks yourself. Now, of course, also with the rise of AI, the capabilities to automatically write distinct data quality rules is becoming even better and better. So that balance is shifting slowly back to implementing all your checks and rules in a data contract versus having the observability part either as a beginning stage where you just want to see how your data looks like and for specific anomalies write data quality checks, or use it as a last resort, maybe to detect to highlight any anomalies that you might not have covered basically with contracts and data quality checks.
Then one more question. Can all these checks be integrated in data engineering pipelines directly?
Yes, that's a very good question. And that's definitely the case. It is also actually one of the distinct value propositions of SODA. All of the capabilities that I've shown you now in the user interface are actually also available in a Python SDK, in a REST API. And we have many data engineers, many data scientists that actually use SODA to monitor the data pipeline. So we have, for example, the SODA contract verify command that is basically a circuit breaker, and that allows you to stop specific pipelines if data quality checks fails. So actually, SODA is really has a lot of capabilities to do, CI/CD kind of monitoring and basically ensure that those pipelines are either interrupted or have some fallback scenarios in case that data quality rules and data quality contracts fail against your data.
So I think we're through with questions that were already put into the Q&A section and the chat. So if there's still remaining questions, be very quick. And I would just like to highlight, maybe for all of us, some answers that were given from by Bernie to some of the questions. For example, how many iterations, how much historical data do you need to use the out-of-the-box algorithms? So you need at least 5, but the more you have, the better it is, of course. And yeah, that's also kind of covering the anomalies as part. So I go back to the Q&A section here. Then there's one question. Yeah, Bernie, you answered this already, but could you please answer it again? For all of us, does Soda also support the connections to SAP for HANA?
Yeah, so we have currently connection to SAP HANA Cloud, basically in private preview. I'm not too familiar with the SAP data stack, so I believe that actually covers the SAP S/4HANA because it uses a HANA Cloud database. But should I be mistaken, I'm happy to follow this up also with product management. You see my email here is on the slide, so for any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out on any possible connectors that might be required for you to implement Soda Cloud.
Yeah, I think this is also our offer you see here. Yeah? We offer you half day workshop on-site remotely for free if you want to go like into a specific discussion about your own situation. Yeah, because I think with 30 different participants, we have 30 different problems or a situation with 30 different solutions in the end of the day. And to discuss this, we invite you to contact us. Yeah, you see our contact information here on this slide. Yeah, reach out via email. You can also ping us on LinkedIn if you wish. Yes, so the invitation from our side is there to go into much more detail if you want. Yeah. Yes. So, do we have any more questions?
There are no more questions in the Q&A section in the chat. So we just highlighted this is a really great offer that you just wrote up, Jan. And let's finish with a very warm thank you to all of the participants and all the presenters. And also thanks for the lively exchange in the Q&A section. And yeah, I would look forward to hear from you and see you. And yeah, wish you a pleasant day. Until then, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your day.